Hello everyone, my name is Amy Metz, and the sport that I chose to research was hurling. Hurling originated in Ireland, where it's been popular for over 3,000 years. There's been a lot of literary discussion of the sport since as early as 1272 BC, and this has mainly been through the form of Irish myths and legends, most notably when a young hero used hurling equipment to kill a vicious hound. So the sport has always been equivalent to strength and power. And early on, hurling skill was equivalent to battle skill and preparation. So if you were good at hurling, you would essentially be good in battle. And there have been several known variations of the game based on the region that they were played. But in the 19th century, all of the variations morphed into one codified summer sport of hurling. As for the basic concept of hurling, it is arguably the fastest field sport in the world, and it's most prominently an amateur sport that's played at county and club level. However, there is a professional league called the National Hurling League, which is made up of 35 teams from both Ireland and England, and it follows the promotion regulation system among the 6 divisions that the 35 teams are sorted into. The way that the game is played bears a very close resemblance to field hockey, so that can be something that you kind of can keep in your mind as you're picturing the way that the game is played. The game is played using sticks called hurleys and a ball called a slitter, and there are 2 teams of 15 who will play on a large pitch that's 145 meters long and 90 meters wide, and it has 2 H-shaped goals on either end. As for game officiating, there's 1 referee, 2 linesmen on the sidelines, and then 4 assisting umpires. As for the main game rules, players actually start on either side of the half, and they're paired with an opponent, and this is very different from many U.S. sports that start on their own sides facing off against one another. And the game begins then by the slitter being thrown between all 4 midfielders in the center, and then they have to compete to gain possession of the ball. So handling rules include you can strike the ball on the ground or in the air. You can catch or pick up the ball with a hurley and into your hand, and you can carry it for no more than 4 steps or seconds in your hand, and then you can bounce it and pick it back up again, but you're forbidden to catch it more than twice. And players also cannot pick up the ball from the ground directly with their hand. Additionally, players can run balancing or bouncing the ball on their hurley as long as they want. They can play the ball by striking it with either their hurley, their hand, or their foot, and they can compete for the ball by playing it with a hurley or shoulder charging an opponent as long as it's in the side-to-side motion. The scoring system is a very unique part of the sport. There's 2 types of scores, a point and a goal. To score a point, you have to strike the ball over the crossbar with a hurley, so this is in the upper half of the H as seen on top of the net. And then to score a goal, you can strike the ball under the crossbar and into the net. And a goal is preferred because it's worth 3 points instead of just 1. You can score goals from the hurl or the foot, but you cannot score goals from the hand pass method, but points can be scored from the hand pass method. So in 1884, Michael Cusack recognized the need for common regulations in the game, and thus came the establishment of the Gaelic Athletic Association. So the GAA introduced a formal set of rules to both hurling and Gaelic football, which is another international sport that's native to Ireland. And the GAA is an Irish international amateur sport organization that has played a significant part in the Irish Cultural Revolution. As for a national scale, the US GAA is responsible for promoting hurling in the US everywhere except for New York City, and this body is organized regionally into 10 different divisions. So in New York, there's the New York GAA to govern the clubs in New York just because there's a very high concentration of them there. And then other bodies include Gaelic Games Europe, Middle East GAA, Britain GAA, the Australasian Association, Canada GAA, Asia GAA. So hurling is most popular in Ireland as it's a fixture of life and it's important to the history of Irish culture. It's considered the national sport along with Gaelic football, and it's played in most Irish counties. seeing the greatest talent come from Kilkenny, Tipperary, Wexford, Cork, Clare, Offaly, Limerick, and Galway. So hurling is also played in North America, Europe, Australia, Asia, and the Middle East. However, it's not a way of life in these regions, and while participation rates yield the need for governing bodies in these regions, there is very little popularity among those who don't play the sport. So if there's very little fans of the sport who haven't already been introduced to it by playing it. So as for participation rates around the world, there weren't specific numbers for these rates, but I did find the numbers of clubs that each region had. So Europe was the most prominent. It's most popular in Europe. So Europe had 84 clubs, excluding Ireland and Great Britain. In Ireland, there are thousands of clubs because this is where it's the most popular, and then Great Britain had 82. North America has the next highest numbers, with the U.S. at 123 clubs, excluding New York. New York has 41 clubs just on its own. Canada has 24 clubs, and then Australia follows with 56 clubs, Asia with 22, and the Middle East with 13. So diving into the demographics of who plays hurling, there are differences among the rural and urban clubs. Most recently, there's been a large urban population shift, so more players are wanting to join the urban clubs as opposed to the rural ones, just because more people are living in the city. So these urban clubs are producing higher talent, and it's making it more challenging for the rural clubs to be able to compete. And urban clubs are also gaining fresher perspectives and skills, while the rural clubs are seeing this generational family involvement of people who are living in this rural area. So hurling is very attractive to physically built males, as it used to be a form of Irish warrior training, and it was a distraction for U.S. soldiers in the army, and it's been a very powerful and physical sport. So women do play in the Gaelic games, but they don't play in hurling. There's no women equivalent game to hurling, and there just hasn't been very much women interest in physically playing the actual sport of hurling. So as for age, the age is predominantly adults, so between the age of 18 to mid-20s. However, specifically in Ireland, youth clubs and programs have been very popular just because it has gotten people interested in the game before they've gone into adulthood. And then in the United States, there's several university club level teams, so this kind of relates with the teenage adult age range. So finally, hurling is seen as a middle-class activity. It's not very expensive. The hurley is about $25 to $50. The helmet, which is the only protective gear that players have to buy, is about $40 to $70. So the only other cost would be transportation, as they have to travel to different competitions across counties, but it is pretty manageable in terms of sports if you compare it to hockey and all of those. So to share some of the main events of the sport, on an international scale, there's the Shinty Hurling International Series, which is where Irish hurlers will play Scottish shinty players under a compromised set of rules, as they're two different sports, but they're very similar, so they can play them together under a similar set of rules. And then this has become a platform to be able to compete representing their nationalities and promote unity among the two nations. And in addition, the New York Hurling Classic allows for Irish teams to be able to compete on a global platform and able to grow the sport to new audiences. So as of right now, there is no Olympic presence. The hurling was featured in the 1904 Olympics. However, it hasn't been back since. On the main Irish international event is the GAA Hurling All-Ireland Championships. And then other countries also have their own national finals and championships between the divisions and clubs in those areas. So looking at the sports media coverage, initially the right to broadcast was mainly owned by Irish national broadcasters, including RTE, the state-owned BBC equivalent, TV3, and TG4. However, in 2014, the GAA struck a new deal with Sky Sports, making them the sole broadcaster of 20 matches, 14 of which would take place in Ireland. And the purpose of this was to just create a deal with an international broadcaster and able to bring the Irish games abroad and raise the game's profile. But in doing this, there was actually a lot of backlash from fans because it replaced a lot of the free-to-air streaming, and it was seen as threatening to amateurism. So currently, the deal renewals from 2017 to 2022 include the renewal of the partnership with Sky Sports, so this international streaming site, and then also the partnerships remain with still the local streaming and the local radio stations. And there were also renewals in their partnerships with Premium Sports, which is North American, and then Premier Sports, which is Britain. And then there is also becoming more digital in regards to new media, so like social media and all of that. Overall, broadcasting revenues are very important funding source for the GAA because the GAA doesn't participate in rights pooling or revenue sharing like many of the North American sports do. So sponsorship support of hurling takes form mainly through events and clubs. Sponsors have the opportunity to sponsor hurling events. So for example, the GAA Hurling All-Ireland Championship has 3 official sponsors, including Boardgeist Energy, Centra, and Little Woods Ireland. Clubs will also often have their own sponsors, and this helps assist in the establishment of these clubs and any funding needs that they have. And it can also assist in fundraising efforts for any of the clubs that hold nonprofit status. So in the corner, you can see in the photo, one of the club sponsors is Papa John's, so they have their logo on the jersey. So in terms of licensed products now, the GAA has a licensed partnership with Canterbury and O'Neill's Irish Sporting Goods Manufacturer just for the production of products to sell and promote each team. So the clubs also sell merchandise, including clothing, sporting goods, and any accessories. So examples of these would be the GAA has a jewelry and giftware collection. So you can see in the photo, and right underneath is a photo of a necklace with a team jersey on it. So they sell stuff like this, different jewelry, rings, all that stuff. And then they also sell, places will sell team jerseys and hats and other accessories just to help fans and people feel more connected to the teams. So here are my references. Thank you all for listening. Please leave any comments that you have in the comments. Thank you.